Okay, you have to see this to believe it. This is a traditional RGB WW light, and this is the new BLAIR engine in the Storm ADC. Yeah, this is going to change everything about LED lights. Now, I was pretty excited to get this light from Aputure to review, but I had no idea of how amazing it was going to be. The richness of the colors. This light puts out a much, much more saturated color. And it's not just for red, it's for all colors. I mean, look at that. Look at those yellows. Yeah, that's something I've never seen before out of an RGB light. But not only does this light produce fantastic colors, it's in a form factor that is really small and it's incredibly well built. In fact, I only have one complaint about it. Well, maybe two. You know, I might slip in a third complaint, but you know what? This still is the best light of 2025. Yeah, I think you're going to love it. I've been testing these lights against each other for quite a while now, and there's a couple things that make it a little difficult to actually compare them. The first is the brighter the light, well, the less saturation. So if I put this up higher, well, you can see it gets less and less saturated. If I go all the way up, well, it starts to really get unsaturated. So if we bring it down, well, that's kind of the sweet spot. So to see if I can get something that matches, well, it's going to be down in that range right here, which is for the Amaran about 8%. Same is true with the Storm. If I increase the intensity, well, it's going to get less saturated. But I can also bring it down a lot more and get it more and more saturated. And that's something, well, that you really can't do with this light over here at all, because it doesn't go as dim as the ADC. But even if I have them outputting the same amount, well, there's just a lot more color coming out of the Storm. And by the way, this is an addition on the Amaran light. The Amaran light is on par with every other RGB light that I've tested. Now, I've linked the two together, and I'll go around the color wheel here, and you can see that there's a stark difference between the two. Now, there are two things going on here. One, of course, is the Storm is throwing out more color saturation. The other one is that different parts of the color wheel, well, these are further apart from each other or closer together, depending upon the actual color that's being used. And lastly, every time I link these together, well, it's given a brighter light out of this one, so I'd really have to turn this down to make a full comparison. But still, there's always more color out of this light. So how is Aputure pulling this off? Well, they're doing it with what they call the new BLAIR-CG engine. And basically, that's a fancy word. Well, maybe not that fancy of a word. It's a word for adding 4 new LEDs to this light. And I think taking away 2, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, it has the red, green, and blue LEDs that we're used to, but it also adds 4 more. Lime, amber, cyan, and indigo. By the way, indigo is just a fancy name for a black light. Yeah, this thing has a black light in it. So instead of having 2 white lights, one warm and one cold, and then mixing those, basically it's giving you a lot of colors and mixing those in to create its white light as well as all of its fancy colors. Another way of looking at this light is that by using all of these different colored LEDs, it can actually color more of the color space. Instead of a Rec 709, it can actually cover 90% of the colors in the Rec 2020 space. If you don't know what that means, I'm not really sure either, but all I know is this produces a lot more color and has a much larger color space. Well, if you've been impressed by this light as much as I have and you want to help other filmmakers learn about this light, please hit the like button. That's the best thing you can do, aside from sharing it or calling up your friends directly. Okay, it's the second or third best thing you can do, but it's really easy. Just hit the like button and yeah, this will help get the word out about this light. But that brings me to my big complaint about this light. It's only an 80-watt light. And 80 watts is plenty if you're in a small room like this, especially one where you can control all the lights. Yeah, it can pretty much do everything in here. But if you're in a larger venue, or if you're competing against other lights, or if you're outside and you're competing against the sun, this light isn't going to do a whole lot for you. Yeah, you're going to need something more powerful. And so while I love this light, and I love having one this size, I really want another one. And I want a more powerful one next time. But right now, if you want to jump up in power, well, you've got to go all the way up to 1,000 watts. There isn't a 150 or a 300 or a 600. It's 1,000 watts or this 80. Now, I can only guess that Aputure will come out with some other lights between 80 and 1,000, but I haven't heard about those, and certainly you can't get them. In fact, you can't even get these now. These are only on pre-order. And I know this doesn't sound like a complaint, but actually this has been a very disturbing light for me because I've been trying to figure out how am I going to get more of these in my life. You see, we haven't even got to the part where I explain how this colored light is actually a better white light than any other white light that I have. Yeah, I'll show you that a little later on. But first, I want to talk about the build quality of this light. Because you know what? This light is so well built that I would have been super excited about it even if it just had the old LED technology in it. Yeah, it's that good. Now, the first thing people notice about this light is how small it is, and it is incredibly small, but it's very, very well built. In fact, until just now, I thought it was made of metal, but I think that's plastic, but it's a high quality plastic, and yeah, it feels really good. There's a light on this side, and the controls are on this side, and in the middle, that appears to be the fan and a bunch of empty space to dissipate the heat. Now, inside the case, it comes with a couple accessories. This hyper reflector, for example, goes in here, and instead of just clicking in like a regular Bones mount, it actually has a locking mount. And this is really good because it is on very sturdy, and there's no like jiggle, 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 jiggle that you get with a Bones mount. Now, if you need a Bones mount adapter, Aputure is making one of those and can sell you one for $20, but they didn't send me one, so I'm going to have to wait until those are available. And I'll get one and I'll review it on this channel. Hey, if you want to see that, well, maybe this would be a good time to subscribe. Just saying. Now, Aputure did include this little accessory in here. This is a tiny little lantern, and it just clips on here just like that and locks in just like the hyper reflector. And you've got this great little light, a light that I think I'll be using a lot as a catch light. This little setup kind of reminds me of the old Inky Dink, which is a small little light that was used for close-ups in Hollywood to get that nice little catch light. I think they're onto something here, and I think that's why they included it inside of every kit. Now, the unit itself comes with these 4 little feet on the bottom, so if you just set it down, well, it doesn't clog up the fan. It also comes with this screw mount here, so you can put a little spigot on here if you want to be really small. But every one of these lights comes with this fantastic little metal yoke, and that's what I'll be using most of the time. But I love the fact that it's removable, and I also love the fact that when you remove it, well, all the parts stay in here, so you don't lose them. Putting the yoke on is very simple and straightforward, and it has this little piece that snugs down just nice. Now, on the back, there's a USB-C port that's covered by this little rubber gasket. There's also another rubber gasket that reveals the power supply. In this case, I can plug that right in here, and this is a locking power supply. Yeah. For plugging it into the wall, you have a little power brick here that has a little V-mount on it, and you just plug it in right here into the wall. Of course, you don't have to use the power brick. You can use a V-mount battery. It just slaps right on there, and with the decap table, just like that, well, yeah, you've got battery power. This is fantastic. Amaran did send me this little accessory that goes right in here to the thread. So you got a very nice little handheld battery system. Oh, and did I mention you this? This is weather resistant with an IP rating of 65, which means you can basically pour water on it. You just can't submerge it into water where there's pressure. I'm not going to douse mine in water though, because you know what? I just can't do that. Oh, and the accessories for this light just keep growing and growing. This is the C4 Fresnel. Yeah, fantastic little modifier. Yeah, I love Fresnels on a light. It takes a harsh light and makes it a little less harsh and a little more Hollywood. And there's also these metal barn doors that just slip right onto the Fresnel. Yeah, I love this thing. Did I mention that? But that reminds me of another nitpicky complaint. It's this Aputure case. Yeah, it's a really nice bag, but it's a little small. Sure, it fits everything that comes with it, but you know what? I really wanted the barn doors and the Fresnel to fit inside of this bag as well. Instead, those come with this bag. Now, the bag is okay because it does fit everything inside of it and kind of go like that. But you know what? I would have preferred a larger case for this where there was room for this inside. Well, Aputure, if you're listening, next time, maybe just a bigger case that can include all the accessories that you know we're going to want to get. Oh, and there are other modifiers that are made specifically for the ADC that are on their way as well. There's a small softbox, as well as this really cool lantern that I can't wait to get my hands on. Now there's another accessory that I don't ever see myself getting, and that's the wired DMX cable, because this can do that as well. It can also do wireless CMRX, something else I probably won't do because I use the Sidus Link app and I absolutely love it. But now let's actually test Aputure's claim that the Storm is a better white light. All right, I've set the Storm at 5600 degrees Kelvin, and I've adjusted it a bit so that I can match it up with the Amaran. Now let's put the Amaran up and see them side by side, and let's compare. Well, please let me know in the comments if you could tell a difference, and if so, which one do you prefer? To me, the difference isn't as obvious as it is with a colored light, but yeah, I think there's a more natural look coming out of the Storm. And you might say to yourself, oh, well, the color temperature might be off, but no, I match the color temperatures. And if you look at the waveforms, the reds are pretty equal, the blues are pretty equal. The green, yeah, I guess there's a tiny little bit more green in the Amaran light, but still pretty similar. But when I look at the images, the Storm seems more natural somehow to me. And maybe it's just the Emperor's new clothes. Maybe I'm seeing what I want to see, but I don't think so, because when I use the spectrometer to measure the light, well, we can see a difference. And one of the big differences is this black light, or the indigo ultraviolet light down in this area here. The curve on the light is also different. Now, the difference isn't huge, and I haven't done any color correction at all to any of the footage in this video. So I guess, maybe it doesn't matter that much, but still, I don't see myself buying anything that doesn't have a BLAIR-CG engine in it, or something very similar. And I suspect in the next 5 or 6 years, all LED lights will have some form of this technology. And this brings me to my final complaint about this light. It's the expense. Actually, not the expense about this light, but going back to what I said earlier about wanting a light that's more powerful that doesn't exist yet, because right now, the only thing you can get is the 1000C, and that costs over $4,000. So I think what Aputure has done here is brilliant. They've taken the BLAIR technology and they put it into a very affordable light. Sure, it's more expensive than most, but for what you get, this is a fantastically well-priced unit. It's kind of like when Apple put their M1 chip in their smallest Mac Mini and got me very excited to buy an M1 PowerBook. Yeah, sometimes bringing the greatest technology into the cheapest product is a very, very wise move. I do want to issue a warning here about this light. It's great, but it's not a magic bullet. It's not like you can just point it at something and suddenly your stuff looks 10 times better. It just looks a little bit better. In fact, composition, learning how to use the lights that you have, as well as great storytelling, that's going to take you a lot farther. But you probably already know that. And if you want to see the difference between budget gear and professional gear, well, I got a little video right over there showing the difference between Aputure and Amaran. I think you're going to like it. Hey, thanks for stopping by.